Thank you for joining me on Ain't I Maggie. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off on this beautiful book, Excuses Be Gone by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And why are we doing this book? Because it is a book on how to change lifelong self-defeating thinking habits. And if we even pick up one thing from this book, which we will pick up more than one thing, we could change our lives and the lives of those around us. And since we are game changers, we're all about it. So we're going to pick up where we left off. We're in part 3, chapter 13, the second question. Where did the excuses come from? And we're picking up where we left off. So let's take a look at the 4 of the 18 excuses from chapter 3 to illustrate how your excuses making habit has been shaped. 1, I don't deserve it. How is it possible for a divine creation to be unworthy? You are and always have been a piece of God. And you know by now that all beings come from non-being. The Bible itself reminds you that it's spirit that gives life. So where on earth did you learn to use that excuse? This is another thing I want to encourage you. As you continue to walk on your journey, and the more that you become, you allow the God within you to be there. This is the temple. We're building the temple. I mean, the temple's built. We just need to learn how to clean it up and utilize it properly. But the more that you are in sync with your God self and God in you, you won't be able to say these kinds of things to you. And it's going to happen. So don't be discouraged. If you are saying a bad self-talk to yourself, I want you to start recognizing that is not in alignment with what God says about you. And it's not true. So you need to work on that self-talk, but I'm here to encourage you that if you do the work will do you. And the more that you get into this process, there will become a point of no return where you will not be able to return to the old man, because like Reverend Ike says, I crucify the old man so that I can bring forth, I can put sin away and I can resurrect the new man. Okay, so as a developing child, you are weaned on ideas that your worthiness is based on ego-dominated formulations, making you what you do, what you have, and what others think of you. Your worth became intertwined with these ego constructs. If I do well, I'm worthy. If I don't, I'm unworthy. If I accumulate more valuable stuff and make more money, I'm worthy. If I don't, I'm unworthy. If I gain the approval of others, I'm worthy. If I'm unpopular, I'm unworthy. Blah, blah, blah. Like most of us, you were immersed in a culture that taught and reinforced these ideas, which are the work of the false self. Consequently, as an adult, when you see others who are more successful than you are and have more toys than you do and enjoy reputations far greater than yours, your first impulse is to make a disconnect between your status in life and your worthiness as a human being. Years of solid training and ego development have caused you to retreat into a I don't deserve it, I'm not worthy mindset. Since these excuses come from the false self, they'll stay with you until you leave the planet, unless you're willing to tell yourself, okay, I understand where this kind of egotistical reasoning originated, and I can see that I still use it. But I'm practicing the excuses be gone way of life from now on. So you see that? I made a choice. As Reverend Ike says, you need to decide. Okay, for every one of these excuse categories, I urge you to decide to start thinking something along the lines of, everyone in my life did what they knew how to do. And I choose to buy into it at that time. But today, I'm going to stop this insidious kind of absurd thinking and remind myself that I am a divine being, an individually expression of God. Therefore, I will no longer entertain thoughts of being unworthy. I'm lived with them long enough, and they've never served my highest good. So if you want to take what, shorten that, nip that, make it even shorter, it's just crucify the old man. I let the sin die. Sin is missing the mark. And I resurrect the new man. Also, I'm a divine, I'm letting the past die. I am a divine being, and I will act in that manner. And I will take action in that manner. And I will live in higher order values. You can shorten that. There's so many affirmations. Brian Scott's channel, he has like the best meditations. Okay, we're in two. It's not my nature. Have you been allowed to develop as if your creator were in charge of the process? Of course, your physical shell was permitted to take the course natural dictate. You developed the height, body type, and shape, hair, eye, skin color, and facial features that nature called for. You're beautiful. But what about your personality, your emotional and intellectual development, your aspirations, your self-concept, or your spiritual awareness? Were those aspects of you encouraged or unfold unnaturally? Allowed to encouraged to unfold naturally? So what if you're in a family that is like introverted or maybe not empathetic, and you are, and you're constantly told something's wrong with you? Like, this is what he's trying to say. God made you the way you are for a purpose. Now, of course, if you're dysregulated, that's another story. But if God made you with a soft heart, we need to work on keeping your heart in that place, because it's a channel for God to use to help other people heal. But it doesn't mean take that beautiful heart and just let everybody hurt you. So we have to figure these things out. But we want to, if you were not encouraged to let your gifts unfold naturally, don't be discouraged. Let's keep going. The excuse, it's not my nature, came directly from the list of what you were taught you couldn't do or be that I elaborated earlier in this book. You were formulated and then crafted into the finished product that your family and culture desired. When you're told you can't do this, you can't do that enough times, and you're willing to become the product the people around you want you to be, then you believe that your nature is what you've been told. So think if you've been told bad things, right? This is where we have to change, because that's not how God rolls. Your act on the pronouncements about yourself that you've absorbed. So if you hear that you're lazy, undeserving, or uncoordinated often enough, it ultimately leads you to adapt that this is your self-portrait. If you're told over and over again that you're just like your father, you never amounted to anything, then you'll ultimately view your nature the way that others viewed your dad. Go back to the question I asked you earlier in this book. Who would you be if you didn't have anyone to tell you who you are? Great question. Take total responsibility for whatever you believe constitutes your nature, reminding yourself to think in a fresh way about where this excuse originated. Try something like, I choose to allow the opinions of others to be more important than my fledgling opinions of who I was and what I intended to become. Yes, I was small and vulnerable, but I was still making my choice. This kicks the old excuse down and the stairs and helps you love the person you were then, causing you to tenderly undo what you, not someone else, have done. While you can never change the actions of others, taking responsibility, and this is his point he's nailing over and over, taking responsibility for your own life will help you make the shift to an excuses be gone existence. So this doesn't mean if someone hurt you, you're saying, hey, it's okay, you hurt me, and I chose so that you hurt me. What you're saying is, I take responsibility, this has happened, but no matter what, I'm still going to choose to be this higher order value person, and I'm going to take the action, and I'm going to walk in that direction, whatever it takes. 3, I'm not smart enough. Where do you think you learned that you were somehow shortchanged in the brain department? Well, you were enrolled in an educational system that assigned numbers to your intellectual capacity. A test gave you an IQ number to carry around for your life. We learned to listen to a teacher whose lesson plan wasn't designed for the variety of learning modes in the classroom. That's right. So all of the students were being exposed to the same instruction. At the end of the week, an exam gave you a grade that measured you against the performance of all of your classmates. You all had your place in a bell-shaped curve depending on your amplitudes that day and in that week and on that particular subject area. And you developed a self-image based on what the teacher's test scores and academic performances indicated. And you learned that you were average at spelling, above average in art, but mentally challenged in mathematics. Yeah, no. And above average at art, okay. So soon you had the makings of a great excuse. I'm not smart enough. That you hauled out whenever it was convenient. So here's a story for you. In Hawaii, a lot of the kids do not do well in the SATs or any of these national exams. And the reason for that is many questions in the SAT or whatever, they're directed at the mainland. So they're directed at all kinds of experiences and things that go on in the mainland. But Hawaii doesn't have exposure to many of those things. Now, I know our educational system needs help, but if you've never ever, been exposed to snow or different types of things, you're not going to know how to answer. And so then the kids in Hawaii are labeled as, not the smartest tools in the shed. And that's not true. If it had to be done the other way, a lot of people wouldn't be knowing what to do here in Hawaii too. Hawaii has its own box of tricks, things that you got to learn about the ocean, things you got to learn about the mountain, things you got to learn. So, I'm not a big believer that a test at any point in anyone's life is big proof of, intelligence. You can have good and bad days, etc. So here we go. When you fail to learn, what you fail to learn is the intelligence tests only measure how well you take the intelligence tests. It turns out that the academic performance has nothing to do with your potential for intellectual mastery. Nonetheless, your child mind hung on to those school experiences, and added them to the messages you already absorbed about how you're not as smart as your siblings. You've never been good at figuring out numerical problems, and you're not as talented as the kid next door. This cascade of criticism directed at your intellectual capacities can easily lead you to defend yourself from these jobs with excuses, right? Because it's painful. It's painful to be told these things. And so your psyche is going to try to develop, even if it's not healthy, it's going to develop systems to try to protect you. So the fact is that since you are a creation who originated in the world of spirit, you have exactly the right amount of smarts to accomplish all that you will do while you're here. And it's all perfect, and so are you. To me, a person like my son-in-law Joe, who can lay a beautiful hardwood floor and have it come out flawlessly, is genius. I agree. Whether or not to be performed well in some amplitude test, Joe's genius is displayed in his artistic sense and in that magnificent mind that arranges and positions the grain of the wood, leveling, seal, and endless measurements and computations. You too have all the intelligence you need for anything that ignites your creative and problem-solving passion. Believe this about yourself, and you'll never want or need to trot out the excuse. And I'm not, that one is not smart enough. So it's really hard to say these things, because it doesn't resonate with us. And the other thing is, as you start to drop these excuses and pick up the new thing, you really then start to get that awareness, wow, this really isn't true. And, I'm so glad that I stepped in the right direction sooner than later. Okay, 4, the rules won't let me. Always obeying the rules is a meme or a mind virus that becomes an acceptable indicator of your honesty and integrity. But note this sentence in a letter that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, and it's his holidays this weekend, wrote from Birmingham City Jail on April 16, 1963. We can never forget that everything Hitler did in Germany was legal, and everything that the Hungarian freedom fighters did in Hungary was illegal. We'll take that in a moment. I also love this observation from Ralph Waldo Emerson. No law can be sacred to me, but that of my own nature. So each one of us was made for different creative purposes. So don't discount what your gifts are, because you're needed. You just got to find where that is and plug yourself in. So I'm not making a case for being lawless and indifferent to edicts that govern a civilized society. I am encouraging you to recognize what some of our finest minds say about running your life by rules. I include here what my greatest teacher Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching. When the greatness of the Tao is present, action arises from one's own heart. When the greatness of the Tao is absent, action comes from the rules. Ooh. So, when you kind of think about the Bible, a lot of times, like when the woman was brought to Jesus to be stoned, and they wanted him to use the law to kill her. And Jesus simply, with his compassionate heart and his strength, he simply said, whoever of you who has no sin, cast the first stone. He didn't go with the law. He knew the law, but what was more important to Jesus was having that mercy and compassion. We need to do that for others and ourselves, right? Okay, and so like it says, when the greatness of the Tao is present, action arises from one's own heart. Jesus' action came from his heart. When the greatness of the Tao is absent, action comes from the rules. And that's when that religion comes in and just annihilates. And like Reverend Ike likes to say, religion is dangerous. So live your life in accordance with the Tao-centered or God-realized point of view. You know what's right, what your heart tells you. You know that you don't need cumbersome rules laid down by others, some of which make no sense to obey at all, to guide you. This fourth excuse is a huge cop-out in every sense of the word. I want to cite one more famous American who was adamant about the need for feeling a sense of independence as a criterion for living a full, happy, successful, and healthy life. Read his words carefully. The care of every man's soul belongs to himself. But what if he neglects the care of it? Well, what if he neglects the care of his health or estate? Will the magistrate make a law that he shall not be poor or sick? Laws provide against injury from others, but not from ourselves. God himself will not save men against their own wills. The person who wrote those words was none other than Thomas Jefferson. And I keep saying over and over, we are common sense individuals. And what you look at the scale of consciousness, we are not trying to stay 200 and, below 200, which there's no healing. We are wanting to rise into the higher order values. And we want to not just rise there, but live there and hold that energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So we don't need someone to tell us, because we have that knowing what is right and wrong. Do no harm. So there you have some history's most admired teachers reminding you that the rules should never be a final factor in determining anything about yourself, and said these wise men ask you to go within and be guided by what your passion dictates, as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else, of course. And if you have a tendency to employ the excuse, the rules won't let me know that it was handed down and enforced by those who wish to control your behavior. So yet here again, it's important to take full responsibility for your own actions. You're no longer a child who needs rules to make sure that you're safe, healthy, and functional within a family or classroom. Be willing to consult your adult self with what's right for you. Be willing to consult your adult sense of what's right for you. Assertly pursue that vision, keeping a silent vigil on your inner passion. And overlook the pressures to do things by following instructions and edicts that are simply no longer applicable to you. And if you really start studying the spiritual texts across, they pretty much are all saying the same things, and they're higher order values. Do unto others as you want them to do to you. Don't lie, don't steal, don't do, bad things to people. Watch your heart, because everything will come forth from it. It's really, if we're really honest, it's pretty common sense. Okay, so as you can see, all of these excuses originated in the earliest years of your life. But even as you take the responsibility for your role in excuse making, always be kind to yourself. Remember that you only did what you knew how to do when you were a kid. Yeah, some people were just trying to survive. So be kind to yourself, but make the changes you need to make. So go visit those wrecks Longfellow talked about in the quotation that begins this chapter. Discover where they came from and why they persisted for so long as your habituated way of thinking. Do as the poet suggests and move on to an excuses beyond life, which is far more noble than existence full of self-sabotage and explanations. Okay, suggestions for applying the second paradigm question. So the most helpful suggestion I can offer you regarding the question of where did the excuses come from is to answer it from the following 4 words. They came from me. They came from me. Take responsibility for the thoughts in the form of the words that come out of your mouth today. By all means, study the proliferation of mind viruses and early childhood conditioning practices that were directed your way. So evaluate your childhood extensively. But also practice thinking and saying things. I choose to use excuses as a child. I didn't realize at the time that I had other choices available. I realize I've continued to choose those excuses until now. Kaboom! Who stepped in the room? You, with your higher self. Okay, forgive everyone, including yourself. All those individuals who proliferate mind viruses and conditioning were only doing what they knew how to do given the circumstances of their lives. And those memes dispensers were only one generation removed from receiving the same kind of habitual thinking. Keep in mind the line from the prayer of St. Francis. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. Eschew blame and free yourself from anything that's been plaguing your life and holding you back from activating your higher calling. By forgiving everyone, you pardon them and yourself. And remember, if you never blamed anyone for your tendencies towards being an excuse maker, you'd have no one to forgive. So, this is so good. So forgive yourself and others. There is a wonderful forgiveness, Hawaiian forgiveness, ho'oponopono. If you can go on the internet, you can go on YouTube and look it up. There's one real beautiful one with Auntie, and it's beautiful. Like ho'oponopono, I forgive myself, I forgive others, I forgive everybody. And you'll see. So just look it up, ho'oponopono. Well, we just finished chapter 13. Okay. Congratulations. Good job. We're pushing through. So we're going to start chapter 14 tomorrow. So just go back and review this video. You can put things on, you can put it on faster if time is an issue, but if you even pick up one thing from this book, it could change your life. It'll definitely help you in your process. And I'm just so thankful for you. Thank you for joining me for the reading of this wonderful book, Excuses Be Gone, because we are all in the Excuses Be Gone zone. When you do get a chance, please hit that like and subscribe and leave your positive comments. I really appreciate your support. So, forgive yourself, forgive others, and you know what's next. Peace in, peace out.